If ancient survival was about strength, brains, or endurance, we should not be here. For 300,000 years, a rival human species outmuscled us, outlasted us through ice ages, and forged complex lives with bigger brains and better bodies. This was the species that should have replaced us until they suddenly vanished. What really happened to the Neanderthals, and why does uncovering the answer make us deeply uneasy? Neanderthals thrived in environments that would have broken most human species. Their bodies were built for survival in the coldest stretches of Ice Age Eurasia. Barrel chests and wide, flaring hips housed powerful lungs, with some estimates suggesting as much as 20% more lung capacity than modern humans. Thick, dense bones ran through their frames, supporting muscle attachments that reveal a level of strength far beyond anything seen in athletes today. Their stature averaged between 150 and 170 centimeters, but it was the stocky, muscular build that set them apart, with shorter forearms and lower legs, a classic adaptation for conserving heat in freezing climates. They put those physical traits to use in ways that defined their place atop the food chain. They hunted the megafauna of the Pleistocene, woolly mammoths, bison, and cave bears at close range, where patterns on thrusting spears and the distribution of skeletal injuries point to a hunting style that demanded direct confrontation. This was not the calculated distance hunting that later humans would perfect. This was up close, high risk, and it required a pain tolerance and coordination that bordered on the superhuman. The evidence for their ecological mastery runs deeper than bones and tools. Archaeological sites across Europe and Western Asia show Neanderthals returning to the same kill sites season after season, exploiting migratory herds with a precision that speaks to deep environmental knowledge. Massive nasal passages in their skulls warmed and humidified air before it reached their lungs, a critical adaptation for breathing in sub-zero temperatures while exerting themselves in strenuous hunts. Even their limb proportions, shorter extremities relative to the torso, followed the rules that govern cold climate mammals, trading speed for thermal efficiency. Neanderthals were not scraping by at the margins. For hundreds of thousands of years, they dominated some of the harshest landscapes on the planet. Their bodies, their hunting strategies, and their ability to withstand injury all point to a species that had solved the problem of survival in Ice Age Eurasia. By every visible measure, strength, resilience, and environmental command, Neanderthals were the masters of their world. Neanderthal culture left a mark in stone. Their Mysterian tools, shaped by prepared core and Levallois techniques, show a level of planning and technical control that rivaled any early human group. For over 100,000 years, these tools remained consistent across continents, a testament to deep knowledge passed down through generations. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of pigment use, possible personal ornaments, and even disputed symbolic objects at sites like Grotte du Renne. Yet the record is sparse and the debate fierce. Were these signs of independent creativity or borrowed from contact with Homo sapiens? The archaeological shadow Neanderthals cast is long, but it is also hard to read. The real paradox sits inside their skulls. Neanderthals averaged about 1,400 cubic centimeters of brain volume, slightly more than the 1,350 of modern humans. Some individuals even reached 1,600 cubic centimeters, numbers that dwarf most people alive today. But endocast studies and computational reconstructions reveal that it was not just about size. Neanderthal brains were elongated, with pronounced occipital regions and flatter parietal lobes. A greater share of neural tissue was dedicated to vision and body control, an adaptation to the demands of hunting in low-light, high-risk environments and managing powerful, robust bodies. Larger eye sockets, larger visual cortices, and more neural real estate for sensory motor processing meant less was available for the association areas linked to abstract thinking, language, and especially social cognition. This is where the cognitive trade-off comes into focus. The neural investment that made Neanderthals exceptional hunters and survivors in the Ice Age may have come at the cost of social scalability. Modeling based on primate neocortex ratios suggests Neanderthals could maintain social groups of around 115 individuals, impressive but smaller than the group sizes predicted for early Homo sapiens, which edge closer to 140. The difference sounds minor until it is multiplied across generations and landscapes. With fewer connections, information spread more slowly. Innovations once discovered tended to stay local. Symbolic traditions and rapid cultural turnover, the hallmarks of later human societies, are mostly absent from Neanderthal layers. Their brains, in other words, were not less intelligent, but differently wired. The Mysterian toolkit's stability speaks to mastery, not stagnation. But as the climate shifted and new competitors arrived, the ability to build and sustain ever larger networks became the hidden advantage. Neanderthals had the hardware, but the operating system was tuned for a world that was about to disappear. Homo sapiens approached survival as a team sport. Where Neanderthals built their lives around smaller, tightly knit bands, our ancestors stretched the limits of social connection. The difference was not just in how many faces someone could remember, but in the invisible web that linked distant groups together. Social brain theory, grounded in primate research, suggests that the human brain evolved to manage relationships far beyond immediate family or clan, reaching toward group sizes of around 140, compared to Neanderthal estimates closer to 115. That sounds minor, but in evolutionary terms, it is the difference between a village and a small town. This extra capacity let Homo sapiens trade, share, and innovate across distances that would have left Neanderthal ideas stranded. When a new tool or hunting strategy appeared in one group, it could ripple outward, picked up, improved, and passed along by people who might never meet face to face. Demographic simulations show how this network effect scales. A population with 10 times as many members connected by long-distance ties can absorb shocks and spread knowledge at a speed no isolated band can match. By the time our species entered Eurasia, the numbers were lopsided. Estimates suggest that Neanderthals rarely exceeded tens of thousands across their entire range, while Homo sapiens populations in Africa were already in the hundreds of thousands. Once the two species overlapped, local ratios of 5 to 1 or even 10 to 1 in our favor became plausible. The advantage was not just in raw numbers, but in the way information, resources, and alliances flowed through our growing networks. In a world of shifting climate and scarce resources, it was the species best at scaling up, at turning many small groups into a single, restless superorganism that would set the rules for everyone else. Genetic evidence leaves a faint but unmistakable trace of contact between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. Most people outside Africa carry 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA in their genomes, a molecular echo of ancient encounters. Yet this inheritance is incomplete. Not a single living person carries Neanderthal mitochondrial DNA or Y chromosome lineages. The maternal and paternal lines of Neanderthals stopped cold. What passed on were fragments, not the full legacy. Some scientists see this as a sign that hybrid children, especially males, may have faced reduced fertility or survival, narrowing the genetic doorway to absorption. Physical evidence in the bones is equally unforgiving. Neanderthal skeletons document a lifetime of hardship, with healed fractures, crushed limbs, and sometimes wounds that never closed. But among these injuries, certain patterns stand out. At sites like Shanidar and Saint-Césaire, skeletons show trauma consistent with projectile weapons, deep punctures, and angled breaks that match the force of thrown spears or darts. These are weapons associated with Homo sapiens, not Neanderthals, who hunted up close with thrusting spears. The timing is hard to ignore. As Homo sapiens advanced, Neanderthal populations shrank and retreated, their presence fading from the archaeological record in lockstep with our expansion. Nature was not a passive backdrop. Around 39,850 years ago, the Campanian ignimbrite eruption in southern Italy unleashed a volcanic winter across Europe. Ash blanketed the landscape, forests withered, and prey animals vanished. This disaster struck Neanderthal heartlands just as their numbers were thinning, compounding every other threat they faced. For a species already scattered and outnumbered, the eruption was a blow from which there was no recovery. The final Neanderthals vanished soon after, leaving only scattered bones and a few genetic fragments as evidence they ever existed at all. The legacy of Neanderthals lives on in our DNA, but their fate is a stark warning. Today, our species dominates by the same restless expansion that once erased a rival. What we do with that power now decides whether we inherit the planet or simply conquer it. What do you think?